One seemingly ordinary February morning, college student Laken Riley left home for her usual run around Lake Herrick. But just a few hours later, she was found with severe injuries to her head.
This morning, chilling testimony from the officer who found the body of nursing student Laken Riley.
I found it. Ma'am. Oh! I didn't even immediately. She's not breathing.
The person responsible for the tragedy thought he could escape, but in the end, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Laken Hope Riley was born on January 10, 2002, in Marietta, Georgia. The daughter of Jason Riley and Allison Phillips. She had 3 siblings and grew up in a loving, close-knit family. In 2020, Laken graduated from River Ridge High School, where she was an active member of the cross-country team and always displayed determination and strength. After graduation, she attended the University of Georgia before transferring to Augusta University to pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. Driven by her passion to serve in healthcare and help those in need, Laken was loved by her friends and professors for her friendly personality, diligence, and the warm smile that never left her face. Outside of class, she loved sports, especially running, a passion that kept her grounded and healthy. Between 3 and 6 times a week, Laken often went jogging around the University of Georgia campus with her close friend Connolly, one of her 3 roommates. They usually chose scenic routes around the intramural fields or circled Lake Herrick, a popular spot where students exercised, took walks, and enjoyed the fresh air. Those early morning runs were Laken's favorite moments of the day, a time when she felt free, at peace, and full of hope for the bright future she envisioned in the nursing profession she was pursuing. At 9:03 a.m. on February 22, 2024, Laken Riley left her apartment near the University of Georgia campus to begin her usual run around the intramural fields, a large area with soccer fields, tennis courts, tree-shaded trails, and the calm waters of Lake Herrick. That morning, she ran alone, carrying her cell phone in her left hand with her white AirPods in, just as she did every day. This is a familiar spot for UGA students to work out and spend time outdoors. About 2 minutes after she started, a surveillance camera captured Laken moving south on Millage Avenue Extension. She looked perfectly normal, steady stride, focused, showing the confidence and energy of a vibrant morning. Laken often listened to music or called her mother while running, but that morning, the call she placed wasn't to her mom. About 6 minutes later, as she passed a bus stop and turned east onto the trail toward the railroad tracks, data from her Garmin smartwatch showed that Laken suddenly stopped in the middle of the path. The data recorded an abrupt change from smooth movement to standing still. Just seconds after that, the emergency SOS feature on her phone was activated and automatically placed a call to 911.
Clark County 911. Hello, this is Clark County 911. Hello, Clark County 911. Can anyone hear me?
In the recording of the emergency call, the dispatcher could only hear a muffled, brief voice in the background, followed by the chaotic sounds of a struggle and 4 dull thuds, as if someone was desperately trying to resist. The call lasted barely 1 minute before the signal was cut off. The operator tried calling back several times, but no one answered, and from that moment on, Laken Riley's phone went silent. Meanwhile, Connolly, her close running partner, had classes almost all morning. Around 11:15 a.m., she checked her phone and found multiple missed calls and messages. Lily, their roommate, had texted asking if Connolly had heard from Laken, and her younger sister, Lauren, had left a voicemail expressing concern because she couldn't reach her. At first, everyone thought the issue might be a temporary AT&T network outage since 2 of the 3 friends' phones had briefly lost signal that morning. However, Laken's phone wasn't one of them. By 11 o'clock, they began to feel that something wasn't right. No matter what. Laken, always punctual and careful, should have replied to their messages or returned home from her usual run. Lily hurried back to their apartment, but the room was empty, and Laken's running shoes were still on. Feeling a growing sense of dread, she opened the location sharing feature and saw that her friend's phone had stopped moving in a wooded area behind UGA's intramural fields near Lake Herrick. The location hadn't changed for hours. When Sophia, their 4th roommate, returned home after her exam, she immediately sensed the tension and worry filling the apartment. Lily explained that Laken's location had remained stationary for hours in the wooded area behind the University of Georgia's intramural fields. Without hesitation, the 2 grabbed Sophia's dog, Champ, and began following the same trail Laken usually took each morning, heading toward the area around Lake Herrick. They walked while tracking the location signal on the phone, step by step moving deeper into the quiet forest. The midday air was still cool, but an unsettling feeling grew stronger with each passing moment. As they neared one of the main trails, Champ suddenly pulled hard on his leash, barked loudly, and stopped among the fallen leaves. Near the base of a tree, amid a patch of disturbed foliage, they spotted a single white AirPod, the same kind Laken always wore on her runs. The 2 looked at each other, realizing it was almost certainly hers. With trembling hands, Lily immediately dialed 911.
Hi, we're calling because our roommate went out for a run at 9. She usually runs through Lake Herrick behind grad housing, and we haven't heard from her. And we all just got service back, so we don't think it has anything to do with the outage. We went to go look to where her last location was, and all we found was an AirPod.
Okay, have you tried calling her since she just got service back?
Her family doesn't have AT&T, so the one with the power outage, so they've had service the whole time, and her calls have been ringing through. We're just not getting answers.
What's your name?
My name's Sophia Magana.
And what's your friend's name?
Her name's Laken Riley.
Sergeant Kenneth Maxwell of the University of Georgia Police Department immediately took action after receiving the emergency call from dispatch. He captured a screenshot of the last known location signal sent from Laken Riley's phone and quickly distributed it, along with her photo, to the entire search team in the area. Within minutes, a large-scale search was launched around UGA's intramural fields, an area filled with trails leading into the woods and toward Lake Herrick. Sergeant Maxwell and his team began combing through each path, using tracking devices and calling out Laken's name, clinging to the faint hope that she might simply be lost or experiencing a medical emergency. Following the most recent phone ping, he moved deeper into the dense woods, where the thick layer of leaves muffled every step and few people ever passed by. At exactly 12:28 p.m., in an eerie and almost silent atmosphere, Sergeant Maxwell came upon something that left the entire search team stunned.
This is the university. I found it. Ma'am. Oh! I need EMS immediately to the location where the phone pings.
Laken Riley was found lying beneath a large tree, her body partially covered by leaves and brush. Sergeant Maxwell immediately called for medical assistance, and the emergency team arrived shortly after, attempting to revive her, but their efforts were unsuccessful. It was already too late. Laken's body showed signs of severe trauma to the left side of her head, indicating she had endured a serious incident before being found. The atmosphere at the scene was heavy and silent, marking a heartbreaking moment on the University of Georgia campus.
On February 22nd, 2024, at approximately 12:07 p.m., the University of Georgia Police Department received a call from an individual concerned for a friend who had gone jogging at the intramural fields. Our officers responded to that area and immediately began a search of the area to attempt to locate the individual. Officers located the individuals in the area behind Lake Herrick at approximately 12:38. The individual was unconscious and not breathing and had visible injuries. Officers immediately began rendering medical aid. Emergency medical responders determined that the individual was deceased upon their arrival.
Laken Riley was found about 64 feet from the nearest trail, in an area where the ground showed clear signs of disturbance. Dry leaves had been pushed aside, indicating that a struggle had taken place there. Near that spot, investigators discovered two solid objects bearing reddish-brown stains believed to be biological material. Later forensic analysis confirmed that the traces belonged to Laken, and that one or both of those objects were likely used in the act that caused the tragedy. A few hours later, Laken's cell phone was also found beneath another tree, some distance away from where her body had been located. If it hadn't been for the final ping recorded in the area, the device might never have been found. When examined, technicians discovered a clear fingerprint on the phone's screen, belonging to a left thumb, and the analysis showed that it did not match Laken's. Forensic results revealed that Laken Riley not only suffered severe trauma to the head, but also showed signs of significant oxygen deprivation, suggesting she may have been restrained during the struggle. Data from her Garmin smartwatch recorded that she suddenly stopped moving and remained in the same spot on the trail for about 4 minutes. The same time the 911 emergency call was triggered. After that, the device showed movement of more than 60 feet into the wooded area, likely indicating that she had been dragged or forced to move while resisting. The watch continued to register her heartbeat until 9:28 a.m., about 17 minutes after she stopped running, indicating that the incident was brief but extremely violent. When Sergeant Maxwell reached the scene, Laken's clothing was disheveled and her upper body was partially exposed. Investigators determined that the suspect had shown signs of intent to commit an assault, though that act did not occur. All of these findings supported the conclusion that this was a violent and sudden attack that unfolded in just minutes but was enough to take the life of a young woman full of dreams. With the crime scene offering very few clues, authorities immediately expanded the investigation around the intramural fields in Lake Herrick. The trails leading into the woods were completely sealed off to preserve any potential evidence. Police spoke with everyone who had been in the area that morning: students, staff members, and local residents near the University of Georgia, in an effort to gather any information or footage that might help the case. At the same time, they reviewed all nearby security cameras, from student housing and restaurants to parking lots, searching for anything that could shed light on what had happened.
that the University of Georgia Police, in cooperation, well, you can all see, with Athens Clarke County Police and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, are continuing to work around the clock to resolve this crime and to bring anyone involved with it to justice.
During the search, investigators focused on a large blue recycling bin located at the end of a parking lot between a row of apartment buildings just a few hundred feet from the University of Georgia's intramural fields. When they lifted the lid, they found a crumpled, dark-colored jacket inside that appeared to have been discarded recently. On the surface of the jacket were multiple reddish-brown stains and several long brown hairs twisted and caught around one of the buttons. With their experience, officers quickly recognized that this could be a crucial piece of evidence connected to the incident that occurred in the wooded area near Lake Herrick. The jacket was carefully sealed and sent to the forensic lab for biological testing, marking a major breakthrough in the investigation of the heartbreaking case of Laken Riley.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
There's hair on the buttons, ripped up sleeves.
Forensic results showed that the biological traces on the jacket matched perfectly with Laken Riley's DNA. In addition, technicians collected a total of 29 hairs from the garment, many of which showed signs of being forcefully pulled from the scalp, indicating a fierce struggle during the incident. The turning point in the investigation came when officers discovered a doorbell camera from a nearby apartment that faced directly toward the recycling bin where the jacket had been found. The footage, recorded at 9:44 a.m. on February 22, 2024, just about 15 minutes after Laken's smartwatch stopped registering her heartbeat, captured a man dressed in dark clothing approaching the bin. He removed a black Adidas cap from his head, looked around cautiously, then put it back on before tossing the jacket containing biological traces into the bin and walking away along the side of the building. As he passed a nearby cluster of bushes, he stopped, bent down, and appeared to discard several other items. Police later searched that area and found 3 black disposable gloves of the type commonly used in kitchens. One glove was torn at the thumb, and subsequent tests confirmed traces of Laken Riley's DNA on all 3. At around 8:30 a.m. the following morning, officers from the University of Georgia Police Department made a major breakthrough in the case. While canvassing the apartment complex where the jacket and gloves containing Laken Riley's traces had been found, they encountered a man wearing a black Adidas cap identical to the one seen in the doorbell camera footage. The man was identified as Jose Antonio Ibarra, a Venezuelan national currently residing in the complex. When asked to provide identification, Jose presented a green card that appeared to be counterfeit. Preliminary investigation revealed that Jose lived with his 2 brothers, Diego Ibarra and Manny Ibarra, as well as a woman named Rosbelly Flores Bello. The group was residing in the United States without legal documentation and primarily worked part-time jobs at local restaurants. Jose Ibarra was reportedly employed in the food services department at the University of Georgia. His appearance, matching the clothing and accessories worn by the suspect in the surveillance video, immediately drew the investigators' attention. When the residents of the apartment stepped outside to speak with police, it was Jose Antonio Ibarra, also known by some as Victor, who quickly drew the officers' attention. 26-year-old man had several visible scratches on his arms, hands, and the back of his neck. When asked to remove his jacket for a closer inspection, police discovered additional marks on his back, as if he had recently been involved in a violent struggle. When questioned about the redness on his knuckles, Jose casually replied that his hands were cold. However, when pressed about the fresh scratches, he appeared confused and even denied their existence, despite the officers clearly seeing them.
What happened there? What happened there?
Throughout the interaction, the group in the apartment was described as unusually calm, even smoking and laughing, seemingly unaware of the gravity of the situation. When police asked Jose to lift his hair so they could check his face and neck, he complied but simultaneously remarked that he often wore hats. He then pointed to his brother, Diego Ibarra, who was also wearing a similar black sports cap, and said that they frequently shared hats of the same Adidas style. After obtaining a search warrant, officers conducted a thorough inspection of the apartment where Jose Antonio Ibarra lived. Inside a kitchen drawer, they discovered several black disposable gloves identical to those found discarded in the bushes near the crime scene. Forensic comparison confirmed that these gloves matched in both size and material with the ones bearing traces of Laken Riley. At the police station, Diego Ibarra and Rosbelli Flores Bello both identified the man seen in the doorbell camera footage as Jose Ibarra. They also stated that on the day of the incident, Jose had been wearing Diego's black Adidas cap. Their statements were further supported by data retrieved from Jose's cell phone, which contained two selfies taken at 4:30 a.m. and 5:37 a.m., just hours before the incident occurred. In the photos, Jose was wearing the exact same dark-colored jacket and black Adidas cap seen in the surveillance video. Subsequent forensic testing confirmed that both of these items carried biological traces matching Laken Riley, further strengthening the direct link between Jose Ibarra and the tragic event that took place on the University of Georgia campus. Two additional doorbell cameras from neighboring apartments provided even more crucial evidence. The footage showed that Jose Antonio Ibarra had been wearing the same outfit, a dark-colored jacket and black Adidas cap, both the night before and the morning of the incident, only changing clothes after the tragedy had taken place. Around 10:30 a.m. the following morning, a camera captured Jose carrying a plastic bag toward another dumpster within the apartment complex. 3 minutes later, he returned empty-handed, clearly having discarded something. By checking the trash collection schedule, investigators confirmed that this dumpster had been emptied by a garbage truck just 45 minutes after Jose left the area, likely destroying key evidence permanently. During the apartment search, police could not locate the patterned shirt Jose was wearing underneath his jacket in the footage, nor the small backpack or crossbody bag he had with him. From this, they concluded that those items had been discarded along with the plastic bag at 10:30 that morning. The evidence against Jose Antonio Ibarra became increasingly clear and compelling. Forensic experts from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, confirmed that the left thumbprint of Jose matched perfectly with the fingerprint found on Laken Riley's phone screen. At the same time, DNA testing revealed that biological material collected from beneath Laken's right fingernails also matched Jose, accounting for the fresh scratches visible on his hands and arms. This chain of evidence, from fingerprints and DNA to video footage and witness statements, formed a cohesive picture, clearly indicating that Jose Ibarra was the one who had attacked Laken Riley on that fateful morning.
We are obtaining arrest warrants for Jose Antonio Ibarra, 26 years of age. He lives here in Athens, but is not a U.S. citizen. At this time, the investigation suggests that they had no relationship. He did not know her at all. I think this was a crime of opportunity where he saw an individual and bad things happened.
As investigators gradually strengthened the case file and clarified the motive behind the incident, a wave of public outrage erupted almost immediately and grew even stronger once details of Jose Antonio Ibarra's background and past were revealed. According to records, Jose and his wife, Laken Franco, had crossed the U.S.-Mexico border at El Paso in September 2022. He had been detained by border authorities, but was later allowed to remain in the country under a humanitarian parole program for Venezuelan citizens, as Venezuela was facing political instability at the time. This status permitted him to stay in the United States while his asylum request was being processed, a procedure that can take several years. However, instead of settling into a stable life, Jose and his brothers repeatedly got into trouble with local law enforcement. When these details became public, outrage spread not only because of the brutality of his actions, but also over the question of how someone with a prior record of offenses had been free in society. After Jose Antonio Ibarra was arrested in connection with the Laken Riley case, authorities revealed that there had been at least 2 prior occasions within the past 2 years when he could have been detained, but was ultimately released. When he first arrived in the United States, Jose and his wife temporarily settled in New York. In September 2023, he was arrested by New York City police on charges of endangering the welfare of a child and violating traffic laws. Reports stated that while delivering food, Jose had been riding a motorbike with his 5-year-old son, and neither of them was wearing a helmet. However, after being briefly detained, he was quickly released without being held in custody because immigration processing had not yet taken place. Soon after, Jose contacted his brother, Diego Ibarra, who had already settled in Athens, Georgia, and was promised help finding a job. In October of the same year, Jose and Rosbelli Flores Bello, a woman he had met in Queens, requested assistance through a humanitarian flight program to relocate to Georgia and reunite with Diego and their younger brother, Manny Ibarra. But not long after arriving, both Diego and Jose were arrested for petty theft at a local Walmart store. This was considered the second missed opportunity for law enforcement to detain Jose for further investigation. But since there was no immediate immigration status verification process in place at the time, both men were issued minor citations and released. Amid a tense presidential election year, the case of Laken Riley quickly moved beyond the legal realm and became a focal point of national debate. The background of suspect Jose Antonio Ibarra, an undocumented immigrant with prior offenses who had repeatedly been released, deeply divided public opinion. The story spread across mainstream media, social networks, and political forums, becoming symbolic of a larger discussion about immigration policy and public safety. In Georgia, newly elected Republican Representative Mike Collins introduced a bill named the Laken Riley Act, proposing mandatory detention for any undocumented immigrant charged with theft or similar offenses, aiming to prevent repeat incidents. However, the bill immediately faced mixed reactions. Critics argued that its language and scope could lead to excessive criminalization of immigrant communities and reinforce harmful stereotypes.
This was an act committed by an individual, not a community of people. When we want to respond quickly to something, we have to make sure that we're not just reacting, but that the resources are there to help, that there's people are paying close attention to make sure that they actually are solving a problem that needs to be solved.
Supporters of the bill argued that if the Laken Riley Act had been enacted earlier, Jose Antonio Ibarra would not have been free in society to commit the tragic act. Under mounting public pressure and an unusual display of bipartisan agreement, the Georgia House of Representatives passed the bill by an overwhelming margin in March 2024, making it one of the most closely watched pieces of legislation of the year.
We dropped that bill on a Friday, rammed it through Rules Committee on a Tuesday, voted on Thursday, before President Biden got up there ranting and raving with his confused stump speech. Folks, y'all realize we passed that with even 37 Democrats helping us. They even realize how damn bad that border is down there.
The case of Laken Riley quickly became the center of a nationwide debate over immigration and public safety, seen as a microcosm reflecting the deep divisions within American policy and ideology. Her story was mentioned during the State of the Union address, featured in campaign speeches, and became a recurring topic for both major political parties throughout the presidential election season. However, the intense media attention and the way the case was pulled into political discourse left Laken's family feeling deeply hurt.
1 week ago, a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student from Georgia was barbarically attacked, almost unrecognizable, while she was out on her morning run. She was doing keep herself in shape. She was a beautiful young woman. She was a great person, best nursing student there was. He was an illegal migrant, and he shouldn't have been in our country, and he never would have been under the Trump policy.
Former President Trump said he met with Laken Riley's family backstage and says he promises to fight for justice for her and her family.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
I feel like she's being used somewhat politically.
How do you feel about that?
It makes me angry. She was much better than that. She should be raised up for the person that she is. You know, you second guess everything. And, you know, you wish there was more security cameras, more security where she was running. I wish she was running with friends. She decided not to run with friends that day. She usually does. I wish I could have been there to protect her. Wish it would have been me.
Jose Antonio Ibarra was scheduled to stand trial in November 2024, facing a total of 10 serious charges, including intentional murder, felony murder, assault, and aggravated assault due to the level of violence involved, false imprisonment and kidnapping for forcing Laken Riley off the trail and into the woods, obstruction of a 911 call, and 2 particularly severe charges: assault with intent to commit a sexual offense and unlawful surveillance. These charges not only reflected the brutality of his actions, but also pointed to the unstable state of mind of the 26-year-old man that morning. Around 6:50 a.m., on the same day the tragedy occurred, a security camera captured footage of a suspicious man dressed in dark clothing and carrying a white cup, seen near a bus stop leading to the back entrance of the apartment complex where Jose lived. The man was wearing a hooded jacket, a crossbody bag, and black gloves, identical to the outfit Jose had been seen wearing in earlier videos. In the footage, the man lingered around the area for more than an hour, even appearing in front of one apartment door 6 times before 8 a.m. On 2 of those occasions, he attempted to open the door. A young graduate student, heard noises while getting ready inside. When she called out, the man's shadow quickly ducked down to avoid being seen through the doorway, frightening her enough to immediately call 911.
I was in the shower and then I heard some noises and I was trying to saw the state court. Someone was trying to open the door and then I said excuse me and then they just ran away and then now they kept trying to look through my window.
When officers arrived quickly at the scene following the emergency call, the suspicious man had already disappeared, leaving behind very few traces. However, the security camera footage showed him holding a white cup and occasionally drinking from it as he moved around the building. A few hours later, during the crime scene examination in the wooded area where Laken Riley was found, investigators discovered an identical white cup near the edge of a tree, almost exactly halfway between the graduate student's apartment and the location of the incident. The item was immediately collected and sent for forensic testing. DNA analysis revealed that the biological material on the cup matched Jose Antonio Ibarra. Additionally, the contents inside showed traces of an alcoholic beverage, further supporting the conclusion that Jose had been wandering around the area in an impaired state before committing the tragic act involving Laken Riley.
On February 22nd, Jose Ibarra put on a black hat, a hoodie-style jacket, and some black kitchen-style disposable gloves. And he went hunting for females on the University of Georgia's campus.
Athens Clarke County appointed Sheila Ross, a seasoned special prosecutor with extensive experience handling serious criminal cases, to lead the prosecution in the case of Laken Riley. Throughout the trial, Ross presented a comprehensive and highly persuasive indictment built on a solid chain of evidence, from forensic findings and digital data to witness testimony. The defense team for Jose Antonio Ibarra chose not to request a jury trial, and Jose formally waived his right to be tried by a jury, likely to reduce the risk of public bias given the case's high-profile nature. As a result, the proceedings were held directly before Athens Clarke County Superior Court Judge H. Patrick Haggard. During the defense, Jose's attorneys attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's argument by suggesting that the man seen in the video discarding the jacket could have been his brother, Diego Ibarra, rather than Jose himself. However, Prosecutor Ross countered with concrete evidence, including phone location data, selfie images, and DNA samples, demonstrating that Jose was indeed the individual shown in the footage. FBI Special Agent James Burney testified in court that he had collected and analyzed all location data from the cell phones of Jose Antonio Ibarra and Laken Riley, along with the data from Laken's Garmin smartwatch worn during her fateful run. Using this information, he was able to reconstruct a detailed map of both individuals' movements on the morning of February 22, 2024. The results showed that the GPS signal from Laken's smartwatch precisely matched the wooded area where she was found, while pings from Jose's phone confirmed that he was in the same area at the same time. Notably, Jose's device showed no Wi-Fi connections during the time frame of the incident, consistent with being outdoors in the forested area. The defense attempted to argue that in the days prior, other individuals, including Jose's brother Diego Ibarra, had occasionally used his phone. However, the FBI stated that there was no evidence suggesting anyone other than Jose possessed or used the device on the day of the incident. Furthermore, Diego Ibarra was verified to be working at the University of Georgia dining hall at the time of Laken's disappearance, and no physical evidence connected him to the crime scene. In contrast, forensic results clearly established that the DNA found under Laken's fingernails and the fingerprint on her phone screen both belonged to Jose Antonio Ibarra. Throughout the more than 3 days of trial, Jose Antonio Ibarra displayed almost no emotion. He sat silently, his eyes vacant, staring straight ahead as the interpreter translated each charge against him. His cold demeanor made the atmosphere in the courtroom even heavier. Laken's 3 roommates, Connolly, Lily, and Sophia, each took the stand, recounting the moment they realized Laken was missing and the fateful 911 call from that morning. When the recording of Laken's emergency call was played aloud in court, Jose showed no reaction, no lowering of his head, no sign of discomfort, as if completely detached from reality. Only he knew what had truly happened in those brief, terrifying moments. Later, when footage from Sergeant Kenneth Maxwell's body camera was shown, capturing the moment he discovered Laken in the woods, many in the courtroom, including her friends and family, were overcome with emotion and had to step out. Meanwhile, Jose remained expressionless. Prosecutors went on to present an array of video evidence, forensic data, and DNA results, all pointing to the same undeniable conclusion. Jose Antonio Ibarra was responsible for the heartbreaking crime.
There is no way out for him. The evidence in this case has been overwhelming, and the evidence in this case has spoken loud and clear that he is Laken Riley's killer, and that he killed her because she would not let him rape her. And look no further. You have to look no further to his actions 73 minutes before he encountered her on the trail to know what he was up to that day. And so not only does the physical evidence identify him, the video evidence identifies him. His own brother identifies him. His roommate, Rosbelli, identifies him. The people who he was living with condemn him. But his digital evidence of posting selfies of himself wearing what is basically his rapist gear an hour before he leaves his house, that condemns him. He has condemned himself.
After hearing the full presentation from the prosecution, the final arguments from the defense, and the witness testimonies, Judge H. Patrick Haggard announced a 20-minute recess to review the entire case file and all the evidence that had been presented.
I'll now announce the verdict. In the state of Georgia versus Jose Antonio Ibarra, case SU 24CR0323, count 1, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily...
Jose Antonio Ibarra was found guilty on all counts. As the verdict was read, the courtroom fell silent except for the sound of quiet sobbing from Laken Riley's family and friends. During the sentencing phase, Allison Phillips, Laken's mother, along with her stepfather, John Phillips, her father, Jason Riley, and her younger sister, Lauren, each spoke, sharing their immeasurable grief over the loss of someone so precious. They spoke not only of their pain, but also of the incredible person Laken had been. A vibrant, kind-hearted young woman always ready to help others and dedicated to her dream of serving in the nursing profession. It was that warm and compassionate spirit that made her so deeply loved and respected by everyone around her. Laken was also active in her church, regularly participating in community and volunteer work. For her sister Lauren, she was not just an older sister, but also her best friend and the role model she always looked up to.
I think about how my sister saw exactly what was coming and had no way of preventing it. I think about how scared she must have been and how that man is the only one to truly witness that scene. I'm not sure why he did this to my Laken, and I know I will never understand. I've waited for him to have a reason, but as the details of this case have unfolded, I realize I'll never get any peace or closure. What Jose Ibarra did to my sister is almost unbearable to listen to. I am completely disgusted having to even look and be in the same room as him. That predator is inhumane and is the epitome of evil. Jose Antonio Ibarra has completely and utterly ruined my life, and I can only hope and pray that he receives a sentence that ruins his.
On May 8, 2024, a Clark County grand jury formally indicted Jose Antonio Ibarra on 10 serious charges, including 3 counts of felony murder, 1 count of malice murder, false imprisonment, kidnapping, aggravated assault with intent to commit a sexual offense, obstruction of a 911 call, concealment of a body, and unlawful surveillance. Jose pleaded not guilty and was denied bail. The prosecution sought a life sentence without the possibility of parole, while the defense requested a change of venue due to media pressure, a motion that Judge H. Patrick Haggard denied. Jose also waived his right to a jury trial, opting instead to have the judge directly review the evidence and issue the verdict. The trial began on November 15, 2024, where prosecutors presented a strong chain of forensic evidence, including Jose's fingerprints on Laken Riley's phone and DNA matching his found under her fingernails. Although the defense argued that these were merely circumstantial, the digital data, forensic results, and witness testimonies fully supported the charges. On November 20, 2024, Judge Haggard found Jose Antonio Ibarra guilty on all counts and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is currently being held at the Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison, closing a heartbreaking case that left a deep scar on Laken Riley's family and the entire University of Georgia community. The story of Laken Riley is not just a case retold in a true crime documentary, but a powerful reminder about personal safety and community awareness. From what began as an ordinary morning, a young woman full of dreams and kindness was taken far too soon, leaving behind an unfillable void for her family, friends, and the entire University of Georgia community. Laken's case reminds us that no matter how routine or familiar life may seem, staying alert and aware of our surroundings is always essential. Run with friends, share your location when going out, and always trust your instincts. Sometimes that can be what saves a life. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story in this true crime documentary. If you were moved by the courageous yet heartbreaking journey of Laken Riley, please share this video, leave a comment in her memory, and don't forget to subscribe and like to continue joining us in future stories. See you in the next video, where every story is a reminder of the value of life and the justice owed to those who are gone.